Hello and welcome to Quest for Two. Today I'm making a tier list for the first chapter of Lorcana before we go into Rise of the Floodborn to catalogue the decks that were top performing during this era since the game's release in September of 2023. We have 12 or 13 decks here that we're going to go through, all on a tier 1 to 3 basis, 1 being the best, 3 being the worst. I'm very aware that there's not really a meta at the moment, in the sense of other cards going to come along and can completely shake up everything that we think is good. But I'm using this to catalogue where we are at the moment, and also just show people my opinions on the decks at the moment. Feel free to sound off in the comments about whether you agree or disagree with my opinions, but this is it's 100% opinion, but it's just from observation and also other collections of data. So without further ado, let's begin. There are a few different types of decks in Lorcana. There are control decks, which are about trying to slow the game down and get enough ink in the inkwell to make your big plays and control the board that way. There are aggro decks, which is about getting small guys out super quickly to quest for 5 million in one go. And then there are mid-range decks, which kind of have lots of different labels, but mid-range is more on the idea of they don't have one fixed game strategy. It's just about playing to their strengths. So without further ado, the first deck on this list is Ruby Amethyst. Now, I didn't choose the order of this, but I would say this is an easy tier 1. That is by far probably the best deck of the game so far. Maybe in contention with the others that are going to be in tier 1, but there is the potential that this is the best deck. I've played a lot of Ruby Amethyst myself, and I know that it's very easy to walk with a win. People just can't at the moment deal with board wipes like Be Prepared. So yeah, easy tier 1, easy tier 1. It's quite slow. That's its weakness. It's quite slow, but once you get the ball rolling, there's very little that people can have an answer to. Okay, so the second deck on here is Emerald Amethyst, and we're going straight up from tier 1 all the way down to tier 3, because this deck is not particularly great. I don't even think it will get much better with Rise of the Floodborn. I think that the deck itself lacks just a big payout. It's more of a control strategy, so it doesn't really have any of the quick guys. Kuzco and Hans are both very good in this deck, but Kuzco more than Hans, because Hans is more about getting a lot of lore. But this deck can't seem to choose what it wants to do, and I think it's kind of lent towards a control variant. And it's just not very good, I don't think. But hey, I'm ready to be proved wrong. Next on the list is Amber Amethyst, and this going straight in the middle. Solid tier 2 deck. It is really good at recursion. You have Hades, which adds more lore pips the more villains you have on your side of the play. And you have cards like Dr. Facilier, which when a card is just banished in a challenge, then gets added back to your hand instead of going to the discard, which is just amazing. The deck is very good at bouncing off of itself. It's very mid-rangey, maybe more on the aggro side. It's definitely not the best iteration of Amethyst or Amber, but it has the potential to take the thunder. I think there's a lot of promise there. Okay. Next on the images is Steel Emerald. This is a milling strategy. It's very control heavy, and this again is a tier 3. Emerald doesn't really have much going for it at the moment. It's kind of really good or really bad, depending on what variation you're playing. Milling decks are about trying to get as many cards, trying to basically deck out your opponent, have it so that they can't draw for their turn and lose the game. And they attempt to do this through cards such as A Whole New World, to try and get your opponent to be drawing 7 for 3 or 4 turns, and then using Lady Tremaine or Do It Again, add it back to your hand, and continue to do the same. The only issue of this, of course, is that A Whole New World is reciprocal, so you need a way to stop yourself from losing. Yeah, at the moment it's not particularly great, but I'm sure that in my opinion, this has the potential to be going straight from tier 3 to tier 1 next format, so we'll really have to see what the new support can give it. I think just having the addition of resist and the ability to challenge ready characters is going to completely like revolutionize the whole game strategy of this and probably completely remove mill from the equation. Okay. Then we have Amber Steel. Again, this is a definite tier 1 deck. This is probably very close with Ruby Amethyst in terms of its success rate. While I've been playing Ruby Amethyst, my fiance has been playing a lot of Amber Steel, and she has been whooping me. So it's definitely like, if Ruby Amethyst isn't the best deck, then this is. It's got another name, which is Steel Song, which I think is beautiful. I love that we've managed to add names to the decks already, and they're not just sitting with their colors. As you can see, there's not any duplicate pairings in here, because at the moment deck strategies are very linear in terms of if you have two of the color together, they tend to have the same battle plan. It's very hard for decks of two, if you have two, for example, Ruby Emerald decks, it's very hard for them to be doing two different things without complete unsuccess, because their card pool's just not big enough at the moment. Next is Emerald Sapphire. Now, I desperately wanted this deck to be really good, just because we have Ruby Amethyst and Amber Steel up in tier 1. I wanted this to be like a little nice triumvirate, but unfortunately that's not the case. There's just not the card draw. That is its only weakness. It's good at control, controlling the game. It's a bit more mid-rangey, but it's very good at getting the ink in the inkwell and then getting out larger characters faster, but it's not... It just, without the card draw, it really does live or die based on its opening hand, and that can be detrimental to this strategy. Next is Sapphire Amber. The princess is a tier 2, easy. In fact, this deck has the most wins, I think, at my locals. Played by one person, and she's really good at it. She has mastered the deck amazingly. She pretty much wins with just only 4 ink in the inkwell, which obviously you might be thinking like, Sapphire, that's about getting ink in the inkwell, but she plays it more about trying to have princesses out, and Sapphire offers a lot of those alongside the Amber. So much healing capability. It is very mid-rangey with more aggro elements. I think that the aggro is that the cards that they're doing is they're shifting Stitch to quest for 3 on your 4th turn. But the making it more mid-range is the fact that it just heals consistently. There's constant healing, and it's very hard to remove the characters from your opponent's play. The only thing is it's got a huge pinch point at the moment, and that's just board wipes. If you can get rid of if you be prepared these players, then they have nothing they can do, because with only 4 ink in the inkwell, it's just not gonna help them rebuild anything, and you can take the game. But solid tier 2 strategy, and I really hope that it ends up being a bit better. Next is Steel Amethyst. Now this deck is also a tier 2. I've not seen many people playing Steel Amethyst, but I'm convinced that it's better than people are letting on. Having things like White Rabbit's Pocket Watch, just allowing for rush of the characters that are big, and also the constant removal for damage through cards like Smash and Fire the Cannons. It's really hard for your opponent to stick something. It's not got the board wipes that Ruby Amethyst has. It's definitely the next down in terms of control, but it is the next down in terms of control. If you're trying to control the game and you don't want to be playing Ruby Amethyst, I think that is definitely the deck for you, because you can just play a character and immediately challenge a character that your opponent's got in play, which is just amazing. Next is Amber Emerald, tier 1 aggro. So good. I've been beaten by this on Pixelborn so many times. It is so good. It's super quick. Your opponent doesn't see it coming. Well, they'll see it coming when you play the cards, but in the sense of, like, it just happens so fast. It's very hard to remove the cards that early on in the game. You have cards in Ruby, like Dragonfire and Be Prepared, that require too much ink, and by that time your opponent's already won. So very, very good strategy. I think if I had the right cards for that, I definitely would be playing that instead. But yeah, amazing. And last but not least is Tamatoa item deck. It is Sapphire Amethyst, and this is also tier 2. It is a strategy that's lacking a lot at the moment. I've seen it very much win or lose, also based on its opening hands, is a bit less susceptible than Emerald Sapphire to its opening hand conundrum, because it does then have the draw power from items, because then you can control what you're drawing with Ursula's Cauldron. Amethyst for the draw, getting all the items out, especially next set with the Magician's Spellbook or Sorcerer's Spellbook, whichever it is that helps you just exert it to gain one lore, is going to revolutionize this deck. It's going to make items a lot more of a lot more valuable. You're going to have cards like Tamatoa questing for even more lore. This one definitely has potential. I can see this becoming tier 1 next set as well. So, yep, this has been my tier list. I really hope you've enjoyed. As I say, sound off in the comments if you don't agree with some of my choices. Let me know if you do as well, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!